Welcome to our channel, ladies and gentlemen. The death of the former IEBC chairperson Wafula Chebukati has revived a very strong debate about the preparedness of our country as we head to the 2027 elections that, from the look of things, is going to be hotly contested, especially after the former deputy president Rigathi Gachagua fell out with his boss William Samoei Ruto and is already preparing grounds to ensure that he gives Ruto a run for his money. There is a group that is ganging up, a group of politicians who are saying that William Ruto is unfit to hold office. Now, after the death of Wafula Chebukati, memories are revived on how Wafula has been managing elections, especially after it was found in Supreme Court that Wafula Chebukati was bullying other commissioners. In fact, the discussion around the powers of the chairman vis-a-vis the other commissioners came to play, and there was a sharp division when lawyers were divided. Others were saying that the chairman has the ultimate authority to decide on what others are deliberating, while other lawyers were saying that all these commissioners are the same, except that the chairman is only given the mandate to read the final result, not trying to coerce other commissioners. Because at some point, it was noted that Wafula sometimes used to lock himself in a room in a bid ostensibly to change, and edit results during tallying and verification. But ladies and gentlemen, there are two things that I want us to talk about. People have been asking, why is it that when the chairman of the IEBC finishes his term and when he's out of office, then suddenly his life or his health starts deteriorating and they die? That happened to Samuel Kivitu under the defunct Electoral Commission of Kenya, and it also happened to Wafula Chebukati. So people are really asking questions: is it a coincidence or is there something behind it? But before we look at that, the former IEBC chairperson, I think the first one under the new constitution, Issack Hassan, is saying that this seat is very volatile. It is not a walk in the park to sit on that seat. And he's saying that when he was sounded out of office, before he went, he saw people applying to be commissioners. People like Roslyn Akombe, people like the late Musando. And having sat on that very hot seat, he was wondering, do these people know what they're getting into? In his heart, he was praying that had they known what they wanted, what they were applying for, then they would have attempted. And I want us to listen to Issack Hassan, because his statement back then is still very fresh today, because it is coming at a time when we do not have IEBC commissioners, but we already have the IEBC selection panel that is telling us that over 1,000 candidates have applied for the job. Can you listen to Issack Hassan?
Hold for, don't leave it as a vacuum, stay there, then you can hand over to the new chairman. So I was actually concerned about the lack of a chairman coming to take over from me. But again, what surprised me actually was that people could apply for these jobs.
Having seen what they've just seen.
Yes, I mean, I was watching when they came to the office for us to hand over Dr. Akombe, the Bulia, other commissioners. I was watching them, and I was asking myself, do they know what they're... What's wrong with these people? I mean, this lady is a P5, the UN. Why would she want to come to this place? But again, I realized, you see, people don't know what's inside there
until
you
get in.
Yes.
When you saw then
Now, Issack Hassan was saying that he sympathized with the people, Kenyans, who really wanted to help their country because he knew it was, for lack of a better term, dangerous to be in that seat. But ladies and gentlemen, currently we do not have IBC commissioners. And the IEBC selection panel is saying that we've got about 1,848 applications that would want to occupy the vacant positions. Kindly listen to the IEBC selection panel.
And locally back in the country, applications for the post of chairperson and members of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission has closed. The selection panel says the application process closed Saturday with a total of 1,848 applications received. The chair of the panel, Nelson Makanda, says the panel has commenced the process of verification and will be issuing the long list comprising of all the names of the applicants. In a statement, Makanda pledged a fair and transparent recruitment process.
If they listen, and I believe that they have listened to the statement from Issack Hassan, you know that our elections are in the hands of these people who are now being interviewed. Because by the end of the interview, names will be presented to the current president, William Samoei Ruto. Is the one who will be like ratifying those names to start their jobs. As we head to 2027, it is still not lost in us that the weight of this country and the fate of this country sometimes lies in the hands of those IEBC commissioners. And as several leaders line up to compete against William Samoei Ruto, they must ensure that we have the right people in place. The right people who cannot be bribed. People who will stand firm in the face of intimidation, because those are part of the problems that Issack Hassan was talking about. And then we need to ensure that we amend the rules so that the chairman is not a bully. Otherwise, what will happen, because there is a statement in the country that if you want to become the president of Kenya today, just ensure that you are pronounced as the winner at the end of tallying and verification in Bomas or wherever it is. Once you have been announced, that is it. Because you will then now take people to court, which you must also ensure is in your pocket. As we speak today, if there is one thing that William Ruto understands, is that the 7 judges at the Supreme Court must leave office as soon as possible before 2027. That is why people like Nelson Harvey and Grand Muller are up in arms with the CJ and her team to leave office. It is very unfortunate for Madam Martha Koome because Kenyans don't like her. Kenyans don't like her because when she pronounced judgment after 2022, she used non-judicial terms, and Kenyans will not gang up to help them, rather to chase them away further. So William Ruto understands that game very well. He will also ensure that the people who will be selected and finally signed to this job, he will ensure that they are in his pocket. I'm saying this because we have seen what William Ruto does. The executive is in charge of all the independent institutions. You look at the office of the DPP, DCI, you look at the NIS, our courts, you look at parliament, there isn't any institution that is independent. The independence is only on paper. So he will ensure that once these people are given the job, they will be made to feel like this is a favor to them. William Ruto will try as much as he can that as he heads to 2027, these people are his friends. And that is why the opposition must also ensure that they are in charge. So come 2027, William Ruto would just want to be announced as the winner. He will tell you go to the court. Because if, and let me not say if, when, because it's only a matter of time, when the 7 judges leave office, there will be application for another team of judges who will occupy the vacant positions of the Supreme Court judges. William Ruto will carefully ensure that his people are right there. And the CJ, who also has the ultimate authority or some little control over the judges, will be his. And I'm saying this, and we think it is a joke. Time is running out very fast. Before we know it, we will be staring at a very precarious moment. We'll be staring at defeat. Not defeat because maybe somebody has won, but because somebody has played some mischievous games. It will be too little too late for us. But ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you a question. Why is it that anytime a chairperson leaves office, his health falls drastically and finally he faces death? And Kenyans are beginning to think, could there be a possibility that they are injected with something that gradually kills them? I'm saying this because we are told of a story when Robert Ouko died, sometimes back during the KANU regime. Anyone who was involved, either directly or indirectly, was cleared because they were part of evidence. And I'm told of one man who was the interior CS then, Hezekiah Oyugi, a very powerful man. I'm told that at some point, the death of Robert Ouko fell squarely on his face because of the position that he was holding. Then people were cleared, including the policemen who knew this thing. I'm even told that even the child, there's a little boy, when Oyugi was dropped in somewhere called Gotalila, there is this story that there was a boy who saw the body. That boy has never been seen to date. I don't know how true that is. But we are told that the late Hezekiah Oyugi was arrested. And I understand that they were arrested together with Biwott. Biwott was released, but Hezekiah Oyugi, it is alleged that he was injected with mercury. And the mercury gradually took a tall order on his health. They even blocked him. They denied him any access to external medical attention. He could not move beyond the borders. By the time he was allowed to fly outside the country, it was too late. And I understand that is how he died. So some people feel that these people, because any moment you preside over a fraudulent election and you have announced the winner, automatically you become the suspect. You hold so much secrets that you become a threat. So Kenyans feel that maybe there is foul play in their death. This is an allegation. No one can stand with it in a court of justice. You cannot stand with it and accuse anyone. But people think that their deaths are suspicious. Number two, anytime you have presided over an election, people have died, people continue to reject you, you realize that you've lost friends, it eats on you psychologically. You realize that all of a sudden, yes, you have a lot of money, but you are lonely. Your social life suddenly becomes so solitude. People don't like you. In fact, I was looking at a documentary about the person who killed Dedan Kimathi. He was his fellow Kikuyu, and this man was rewarded after he identified and killed Dedan Kimathi. And I'm told that he was paid in, was it pounds or euros? So he went and invested first. He opened a joint where people could have some, relax with some drinks, some beer, some alcohol. People rejected, and no one was even sojourning in his joint. He felt very lonely. His businesses were rejected. No one wanted to associate with him. He had the money, but he realized that money was not everything. Then he went and bought a bus. No one wanted to board that bus. People knew that this was money, this was filthy money, money that was gotten out of betrayal, betraying a fellow Kenyan, a fellow Kikuyu countryman. That must have been the feeling of Samuel Kivuitu and Wafula Chebukati. You feel lonely. You are from a very powerful office, but people point accusing fingers towards you. When the cost of living goes high, they say, why not for you? We wouldn't have been in this in this situation. When people go for demonstrations and the government unleashes police brutality on them, they say, why not for you? We wouldn't have been in this situation. And psychologically, it was like a trauma. And I believe that if it is not the injection that people are talking about, it is the trauma. You are haunted. You look back, what you can count on after the period, the years that you have worked as the IEBC chairperson, and you realize that you shouldn't have even taken the job because you look like an outcast among your people. After they are finished with you, the government officials are not there to pay you a visit or a courtesy call. Did you see William Ruto visiting Wafula Chebukati after his tenure? Did you see them having any photo? During the time he was sick, did you see William Ruto who praised Wafula Chebukati? But after his tenure, the president never visited him. He battled with his illness until he died, and no one from the government visited him. So that trauma, you feel haunted, you feel unwanted, you feel unworthy, you feel rejected, you feel like an outcast. That doesn't augur well with your health, and it can really cause your death very fast. Number 3, it can just be natural death, and of course, this is a political nation, and people will continue speculations. So I don't know, among those 3, which one do you think is the cause of death of Wafula Chebukati? And is there anything that you can remember Wafula Chebukati for? Because under his tenure, the first time when he was conducting that election, Musando died. Roslyn Akombe had to flee for her life. The second one that he conducted was immediately, that was a follow-up to the first election after David Maraga Nale for that election. But the third one in 2022 was not any unique because Cherera and Irene Masit sought for asylum because they feared for their lives. And so many people look at Wafula Chebukati as a man who never conducted himself with decorum. The Ruto camp continue praising Wafula Chebukati as a man who was steadfast, and they're saying that he stood firm against intimidation, that some people went to subvert the will of the people. But the people whose wills are being said to was an attempt to subvert are saying that Wafula cheated on them during that election. So we are standing at crossroads. If we allow the government to appoint people friendly to Ruto, that is how we will lose it. Because as it was decided in 2017, an election is not an event. Election is not an event. It is a process. It begins with the selection of the IEBC selection panel. Then it goes to the selection of the commissioners. Then before you know it, we now get into a process where we are now procuring election materials. Before you know it, we are told, I don't know, we need to clear the IEBC servers. It goes on like a job. And then we get into election and some machines are not working. There's a problem with the register. And that is how you find yourself with another cooked president. And you are told, go to the court. And the court during that time is very much prepared because they have been placed there just waiting for the IEBC to announce Mr. X. Then Mr. X waits for Mr. Z to go to the courts, and they have already been compromised, either by intimidation or they've been bribed or both. And Kenya find themselves in a scenario where we are told that was wild goose chase, hot air, and you have another 5 years with the man that you felt you never elected, and there's nothing you can do. This time around, let Kenyans wake up in their large numbers. Let Kenyans vote and guard their votes. I don't know what you think, ladies and gentlemen, and I don't know what you think about the statement from the former IEBC chairperson, Issack Hassan.